And I ate my feelings that entire pregnancy. And my kryptonite was cookie dough. And so it's like the tension would build. You're not exercising to release that tension. And then what would start to happen is I would get the kids to bed and my brain would start going, oh, the cookie dough, the cookie dough. I would use that and watching TV because I just wanted to numb. I wanted to numb out from my life. But it really taught me, like after that point, I started working on addressing those things, those coping mechanisms, one of them being uh, starting to strength train to release that.
For us to see, you know, do we really love each other?
She was a wise woman.
You don't know what you don't know, right? So once you're exposed to something new, you're like, wow, this is how it's supposed to.
I don't know what to do. He will, of course, cover me in prayer. I have done things my own way, very erroneous.
I mean, when I tell you endured,
It was just the overflow of every emotion.
The word widow, I completely despise.
Has tainted this area of sex so much.
Hey, Kina Wife Mom Boss, thank you so much for joining us today on another episode of the Kina Wife Mom Boss podcast. I have a special guest here, and I say her name right. I should have asked her before I started. Is Rachel DeSonier?
DeSonier, you are really close.
DeSonier. All right. I'm so excited to have Rachel. She's going to join us today, and she's just going to have a conversation with the Kina Wife Mom Boss community. And I begin to research like who is Rachel, and so Rachel is a mother. She's a follower of Jesus. She's a registered dietitian, and she's a certified personal trainer. And I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself. Go ahead, Rachel.
Well, hi. So, yes, I'm Rachel DeSonier, and you hit the nail on the head. I'm a follower of Jesus. I'm a registered dietitian, certified personal trainer, and I'm a mom of five. And so that kind of sums me up neatly.
I love that. And so I was just kind of having a conversation with Rachel about what's been going on in life recently. And for me, I just want to share with the Kingdom Boss community because you guys know that my daughter is in college and we did get to go see her this weekend. She's cheering over at UWF. And so we got to see her, which is always exciting. We took the whole family this time. Last time, just me and my son went. And it's just been a busy weekend. It actually makes the weekend feel like it goes much faster than you just being able to relax on the weekend. But of course, we're always excited to see her. And how old are your children?
So I have my oldest is 10, and then I have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old.
Oh my goodness. 5 under 10. I just,
Yeah, they're all under 10. A couple years ago, it was pretty rough when
I
they were
bet.
when they were all little babies. Oh man. I feel like I was talking to my husband. I feel like we're finally getting to this point where it's like everybody sleeps through the night most of the time. Like it's amazing.
So it does happen at some point, right?
It's
Listen,
yeah.
I've never had a child not sleep in their own room, not sleep in their own bed. This last one that I have, she's 3. She will not get out of my bed. And she is not a peaceful sleeper at all. And I'm like, oh Lord, when is it going to happen? When is it
No.
going to happen? I tell people I haven't slept in 3 years because my child just doesn't sleep, and she tends to cater to me more in the middle of the night. And I have about this much room on the edge of the bed, and I look over at my husband and he has like the entire king size bed, and I'm like, this is great.
Yes, it does get better eventually. Eventually. Sometimes it's a few years.
Just keep me in prayer, Rachel. It's okay. Just
Yes.
keep me in prayer. All my kids are actually 4 years apart, except for the last two. They're 8 years apart. So I have actually one will be 19 this month. So 19, 15, 11, and then 3.
Wow. Yeah, so you have the opposite of me. Like all of mine are in like a 6 year period, and they're all just like jammed close. I don't know which approach is the quote unquote better because it's like I feel like I've been through the ringer, right? And I feel like I'm like coming out, but then they're all going to be like going at the same time,
So
where
funny.
there's a spread.
Yes. My daughter, she cheered in the high school. There were girls on the team, and we called them triplets. They weren't actually triplets. It was twins and then a sister, but they all looked alike, but they were all in the same grade. And so I would say something to their mother like, "Oh, you got three girls all senior year. Senior year it gets like busy, it gets costly, it gets all of these things. But then you're shipping them all out at one time. It's like one and done." And so I think the answer to that question is what works best for you.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
there are people who are like, I want them all together, and there are people who like I need them spread apart. So yeah, like whatever works best for you.
Well, and also, what you get thrown.
Facts. Whole facts. Whatever the Lord tells you that you're doing, that is
Yeah.
absolutely true. So, there is this one. First of all, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So, like I said in the intro, I'm a registered dietitian and a certified personal trainer, and specifically, I help moms learn how to strength train to lose weight. That's my focus is there's unique challenges that face moms that are trying to lose weight. And, I did the whole distance running and elliptical machine and all the cardio for years and years and years, and it never worked for me. I didn't feel like I looked how I should, considering the amount of effort I was putting in. And once I started strength training for fat loss, I was able to achieve my fat loss goals in a way that was a lot more sustainable and healthier. So that's what I do.
Nice. So you have this one quote on your website that says, "You're not lazy," and then underneath it, you kind of just describe you're a mother and you're just trying to make sure that everybody's good and everybody's surviving and that the household is running. And it hit me because although I know I'm a busy mom, I have a full-time job, I have four kids and they do sports and I have the podcast and write, like I do multiple different things. Even though I know that I'm busy, sometimes I still feel like there's just this laziness to me to where I need to work out, not necessarily for the weight loss, but for the movement, like the joint movement, the complexity, the health aspects of it. And so I love the statement there of you're not lazy because so many moms feel like just this guilt of not being able to keep up with the eating and the exercising and all of these things. And so I'm interested to know a way that you kind of help these moms be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, I totally identify with that, obviously, because it's my website and I put it on there because I felt like that in the past, right? Um, and but the thing is that I realize that so many of us as moms, we take care of everybody else and we put their needs like high, which is important. Like if you're a mom, taking care of your children and your home and your family is super important. But one of the things that I realized was that I'm a person too. And like God's not like, hey, your kids are more valuable in my eyes than you are. He doesn't say that. We are all made in his image. And so it was just a matter of me realizing that one, I am a valuable human being made in God's image, and I am tasked to steward this body well that he's given me. And also, like when there's the other element of like when I make my whole life about taking care of my kids, they sort of get ideas that that's how life should treat them, and that's not true. And so helping my kids realize that we're all part of this family and we all need to take care of our bodies. And I could even go off on tangents of the importance of modeling healthy behavior for our children. Because where do our kids pick up their health habits from? Is it from school? No. Is it from their health class? No. It's from us. What do we do? Not what do we say? What do we do?
Yeah, that's really important. I'm gonna tell you, I've been trying to shift the sugar aspect ratio of my home, and for a while there, these kids thought they were dying. I'm like, there was no cookies in the home, and there was like, where's dessert? I was like, there's fruit in there, and you should have seen the looks that I
Nobody
got.
wants fruit.
The looks that I got from these kids, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna continue to buy these things because you guys devour them, and it's really just killing your body. So, I was like, I'm just not doing it. And so, for as far as your personal testimony, I know you've given us a little bit here, but like, what was the thing that clicked that was just kind of like, I've got to make sure that I prioritize my health above all other things, because I believe that from that's the umbrella, like, right, everything that
Yeah.
flows underneath it becomes so.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was kind of realizing that, like, I show up as a much better mom when I'm well fueled, when I have taken care of my body through exercise. One of the big reasons that I think that exercise is so critical is for the mental health aspect. Um, it really, and I mean, there's like evidence to support that, you know? When we exercise, it's sort of, there's this release of cortisol, which is your stress hormone, and it teaches and trains your body how to handle cortisol better, right? When you exercise. And so it helps your overall cortisol levels become managed better, which is great, right? We want to be training our body to do that. And and so I went through a really stressful period of time with my kids when we were fostering my adopted son's younger sister at the time. So she was a baby. So I had six kids under, I don't know, seven, six, I can't even remember. And we were going through her foster case. So there was a lot of like stuff going on. Um, and and even like a few years back, my son had an undiagnosed medical condition that he was going through that sent his behavior through the roof. Like it was so bad, so bad. And we were all thinking, what's going on with his behavior? And it turns out it was a physical problem. And he just wasn't old enough to verbalize, hey, the reason that I'm absolutely crazy and defiant and screaming rage fits and attacking people is because I'm in pain. And he wasn't able to verbalize that yet. And because he had had behavior issues in the past, it was like we all just were like, oh, it's behavior. It's like trauma related behavior and all that kind of stuff. So it took us a while to figure it out. And through that time, the thing that like kept me going in terms of stress management, aside from Jesus, right, was the strength training because I was able to work out the tension in my body. I could feel it and I could see my progress. It's like my life might be on fire, but guess what? I squatted two more reps. Like I'm doing something, you know? And I think for me, it became this element of control and this is my thing. Like I can do this. And so I guess that was one of the pieces that I think God really used is allowing me to have an outlet for the tension that my body was holding. And I believe he used that to help me through a couple of really stressful times, having six kids under the age of seven, half of them having trauma related behavior struggles is a lot. And I really needed my body to be able to release that. And I think God used the strength training to do that.
That's really good. And so important. Before you said that the kids get the example from us. And I think it's so important for a lot of mothers to realize that sometimes the behaviors of our children is not just necessarily like poor behavior or poor decisions. It can be what they're eating, what they're putting into their body. They're not getting enough sleep. There's one of my sons, and I told him, I said, I need you to pay attention to this. When you don't sleep and you wake up in the morning, you are grumpy. Chances are you're about to get in trouble at school. And I needed him to pay attention to that because sometimes the effects of something, it just looks like this is the front line of it when there's things that are behind the scenes that are really, really kind of pushing forth the behavior and the attitude and the conversations and the foggy thinking and the things that we're going through. And so I absolutely love that. And kudos. I would have lost my mind. I would have lost my mind.
I
Lost
can't
my mind.
I can't say I didn't for a little bit. I mean, the baby didn't sleep like, and then during that, my 2-year-old got sleep apnea and he didn't sleep. And I mean, I remember this one, I know, I didn't even know a 2-year-old could get sleep apnea.
Either, and I'm in the medical field.
Yeah. So it's their tonsils. Their tonsils
No.
sometimes are so big that they relax and cover their airway. And I mean, I was just like, is what is my life? But I remember I took him to the doctor because I was like, I think he had been up every single hour and he was 2.5 and he had been sleeping okay. And I was like, I took him to the doctor because I was like, look, like I'm going to die. We don't like I actually think I might die from lack of sleep. So we need to solve this.
I did actually know that I was conditioned. I did not know that they called it sleep apnea. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess that makes sense now that I'm thinking about it. I just did not know that that was the reference to it. So, I know that you said that the exercise, like the control of being able to just make sure that your body is like releasing all of this stress because you said that you had kids that had like a lot of trauma things that they were going through, and so you being their mother, being their nurturer, you become the landing zone for that sometimes, and I think sometimes a lot of mothers don't realize, okay, I'm like, truth moment here. I am my 3-year-old's person. So I get the tantrums, I get like I get all of that. My husband does not get it as much. And so he comes to my rescue, like every time that he can because sometimes I'm just like I'll just be silent and I'll let you do your thing and when you're finished I'll ask you if you're done. Isn't it so crazy? They're like, "Yeah, I'm done." And I'll be like, "You just tortured my life for 40 minutes and now you're all done." But
Yeah.
you become the landing zone for a lot of the emotions and feelings and stress that your children are going through. And they don't necessarily know how to communicate, like you said, the needs or what it is that they're feeling. And so sometimes we take on this stress, and the things that we eat and the things that we do are being conducive to getting rid of that stress. I'm thinking like binge eating, the candy, the sweets, the junk food. My mother, she was a Twizzler eater when she was stressed out. Like, girl, she had her pack of Twizzlers and she would eat her Twizzlers, but it's just the things that we are piling on top of the already stressful body that causes even like our brains to be foggy. I can tell a difference in what's going on in my body from like how focused I am. And so I think that is so important that you stress the fact that, you got to make sure that you're taking care of your body in a sense to be able to deal with everything the way that you need to deal with it. And I know that had to be a key factor for you in that season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like um all behavior is communication with our kids. And that's something that's like really hard to understand, especially if you have kids maybe that are fit inside the quote unquote box. But when you have kids that don't fit inside the box, and then you're having to be this detective, what are you communicating to me through this behavior, especially if they're littler, and you are, like you said, you're your daughter's person because she's learning to regulate from you. And we are our children's, I mean, how do they learn how to regulate their emotions? It ain't from a book or a YouTube video. It's from you, what you do. And so when you are able to regulate your emotions because you have set yourself up for success nutritionally, exercise, the things that you say yes to and no to in your schedule. That's one of the things that I talk about. We've all got a plate, and are you shoving 50 things on this plate? and then being like, oh yeah, I also want to work out and meal plan and do all these things and set a good example. Well, you probably have to take something off the plate. You know, that's just the fact of life. Our culture is obsessed with busyness equaling productivity, and it's just not true. And so there was one other thing I wanted to say when you talked about the emotional eating, like the binge eating, because I completely did that. And it was one of the things that honestly God like set me free from. And when I got pregnant with my fifth kid, and we had, let's see, I had a 6 month old, and everybody else, my oldest had just started kindergarten. So this was during those years. It was rough. So we went on lockdown, and the next week I found out I was surprise pregnant. So I had all my kids at home, and um we had the 6 month old that wasn't sleeping because he had sleep apnea, but we didn't know it. And I ate my feelings that entire pregnancy. And my kryptonite was cookie dough. And so it's like the tension would build. And this is an example of like what not to do and what ends up happening, right? You're like holding this stress. You're not taking care of your body well. You're not fueling it properly. You're not exercising to release that tension. And then what would start to happen is I would get the kids to bed and my brain would start going, oh, the cookie dough, the cookie dough. And I would use that as my release, right? I would use that and watching TV because I just wanted to numb. I wanted to numb out from my life. Um, and needless to say, I gained twice as much with that pregnancy than I did with my others. But it really taught me, like after that point, I started working on addressing those things, those coping mechanisms. One of them being uh, starting to strength train to release that, and the other finding a healthy way to handle that stress, like de-stressing opportunity in the evening time, right? Because that was my cycle. And so, yeah, I mean, it's totally true. Like you're gonna cope. It's just what are you coping with?
Yeah, that's really good. My coping was not necessarily food in a sense. My coping was TV. Girl, why are you up at 2 o'clock in the morning watching TV and you know you got to go to work the next morning? Like we find these most unhealthy ways to kind of numb ourselves from the real life that's going around us while we're like stressed out. And so yeah, that food seems to be a lot of people's, and I understand it because I love food. And so when God is like, okay, I need you to like stop eating this, or I need you to stop eating that. I like to like God, are you sure? Am I hearing you correctly? Are you telling me to like step away from this thing? But even in that sense, I just want to just speak on how important it is to make sure that the things we put in our body are healthy because there are times where we need to just go before the Lord and we need to read and we need to pray and we need to do all of these things. And even the food that we taste in sometimes like fogs our thinking. We can't even read straight. We're thinking about 10,000 other different things. And so for me, that has been a journey for me, making sure that what I'm putting in my body is helping with my mental and my focus because when I go before the Lord to like pray or do whatever, I want to make sure that I have a sense of focus there. So very important. So going to your foster journey, I have a friend and she did, I think it's called emergency fostering.
Mm-hmm.
She did emergency fostering for a while. And I remember the first kid that she got, it was this little boy who was so cute. And she had him for a few months. I want to say she had him for a few months and then they were going to take the kid and give the kid back to their mother and she was upset about that. And I remember she had such a hard time with it. And I thought to myself, you really have to have a heart for fostering. You have to have a heart to be able to take these kids and love on these kids. You really just have to have the strength because when they decide that, you know, these kids are going to go back to a place that you know is not necessarily healthy or good for them. Um, Man, I just feel like that has to be so hard. So I do want to ask you to share a little bit on your fostering journey with us.
Yeah, for sure. So we are not foster parents anymore. We closed down, um, gosh, maybe 6 months ago, I think. And it really, the Lord did a lot of work in my heart, honestly. We started fostering because I had a family member who had adopted in the past, and my pregnancies are not easy. We'll just put it that way. And I was like, well, here we are. We can help some kid, we can adopt, right? We can help some kid. It'll be perfect. And what I realized, well, you don't know what you don't know. Um, and God really changed my heart towards fostering because if I'm completely honest, when we first got into it, we wanted to foster to adopt. And we, our whole focus was, can we keep this kid that we love? And I realized that that's not really the right perspective because who's centered in that? Me. I am the central focus. And God has started to shift my heart. And so we fostered again after we did end up adopting our first foster son. He was in a situation where termination was imminent, and um, it was just a matter of where he's going to stay permanently, and his current foster family couldn't keep him. And so we ended up adopting him, and I learned a lot about trauma. I learned that even if you cannot remember the trauma, your body remembers the trauma and it comes out. And so there's been a lot, and we're still learning. I mean, it's a lot. Such a positive experience, though. Totally makes you rely on Jesus every day, all day, right? Um, and then we got our second foster placement, and he was supposed to be going home, and then something happened, and they were like, "Can you adopt him?" And so we did. And through that process, I really wanted to be a support for his mom and to have a heart, Jesus's heart towards family. And one of the things that I realized is that um, God does ask us to look after the orphans, but look after the orphans doesn't mean take the orphans away from their family because we're better, right? I had to work through a lot of pride in what I could provide for this child and to realize that God hates when families are broken. And sometimes it has to happen. It does, but it breaks his heart. And so I've had a lot of change in my heart. And so when we fostered the baby, that was my second adopted son's little sister, God told me to pray for her mom. And it was looking like we were probably going to be adopting this one. And I got her number, I got her email address, I would send her pictures. I really tried to remember that my role is to support her. Let the court decide what it will, right? But my heart needs to be for her and for the Lord to redeem like that situation. And honestly, like I it was very hard to do that. It's hard to raise a child for 18 months and then say goodbye. Um, and I remember the lawyers and everything wanting us to hire an attorney to fight for her to stay. And I remember just feeling not good in my spirit about that because I thought, you know, like she's done what she's supposed to. And um, why am I fighting? But we had a nicer home. We had a two-parent stable household. We had, all those things. Um, But anyway, we decided not to do that. We didn't feel good about that. Um, and now we have a relationship with them. We see them. I've gotten to see her multiple times. My son has a relationship with his sister. We're developing relationships with that side of the family. And I don't think that would have happened if we had fought, right? And so the fostering process is incredibly challenging. But I really think that it was this opportunity that God used to mold my heart to truly give it to Him, give the children to Him, which is so hard. It's so hard when you don't know the outcome and you don't know if they're going to be safe. Like, oh, it's so hard. I'm not saying in every situation that's it's been good in our situation. I know there's plenty of situations where that does not work out well, right? I'm talking just from my perspective. But it really did change how I viewed myself. I had to humble myself a lot and really make sure that I am prioritizing the child's best interest above everybody else's. So that's been a little bit of our journey. It's been very redemptive and very good. And I'm not taking any more babies.
She's like, nope, I'm not doing it.
No more. I've done my time.
Yeah. I think that that is such a powerful pivot testimony that you just gave there. And I'm going to tell you on the way back from where we're visiting my daughter yesterday, me and my husband was talking about idols. And so what we were talking about was just anytime we can't take this thing that we have or this thing that God has given us and we can't submit it to God to ask God, how do you want us to use this thing? We've made that thing an idol. And I thought that it was so powerful that you said, when you start asking God questions, he'll hold up a mirror and he'll show you yourself. So I thought it was really I thought it was really impactful that you were saying the only person, that was really going to benefit was me because I wanted to just, keep the child or whatever. But God was like, no, I called you to this stage. I called you to this level or this thing so that you can do my work and my will. And so you had to submit being a foster parent to him to ask him, what do you want me to do in this space? What do you want me to say? And he told you to pray for the baby's mother. Do you know that I mean, I'm sure you know this, but that is so powerful in how God plants people in certain places because I guarantee you there's not a lot of foster parents doing that. There's not a lot of foster parents praying for the mother or praying for the family so that the child can get back to the family. They're just like, "Oh, you're not fit and give me the child." Maybe she wasn't fit at the moment, but what I love about God so much is that he sees us not as who we are now, but who he called for us to be and that he was able to share that insight with you and you were able to partner your prayer with what his vision was, and now you guys have a relationship. Like that, to me, that was so important, that the son and the daughter get to have a relationship even if they're not being raised in the same home, and there has to be such a level of trust there. So I'm sure she trusts you with her children because of just the character that has gone forth and what you've shown as far as who you are and walking, being the light of Christ in that space. So I thought that was a very powerful pivot. I absolutely love the story and love the journey. And I can't imagine just being in a place where you weren't like mentally, physically, emotionally healthy. You would probably not, you would probably been a mess.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was borderline anyway, right?
Aren't we all?
Yeah. I mean, it was, but I really think like I felt Jesus's presence through the whole thing. And I truly believe it's because he told me to do that, like, and to just, you know, continually hold this child with the open hand, whatever comes, right? And yeah, and then, he's been teaching me that in like lots of aspects of my life. I'm still learning it. For some reason, it's like this lesson we keep having to learn over and over.
Yeah, it's never ending. It's fine. We're all here, hun. We're all here.
Yes.
Yeah. So man, I'm just so grateful in how God leads us in these things, even as being a mother, as being a wife, as having a business. Like God teaches us balance and all of these things, like how to spend our time and our energy. And I give this testimony, I've given it before, but just there was just a moment where I had so much on my plate, I didn't know what to do. And I was like, God, I know that you did not give me all of this to fail, but I'm struggling. Like, how do you want me? Like, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to do this? And so I talk about all the time, just inviting God in and letting God lead you in that area, because in that moment he was like, you can do this for 15 minutes, do this for this many minutes, and do this for this. And like, it was a balance of what I needed to feel to feel actually productive. Because what was happening was I was busy, but I wasn't being productive. Like I wasn't seeing the results around me that I needed to see to feel like I was being productive. And so God definitely gives us that. And I am incredibly grateful for it. And so you talked some about strength training. Can you tell us a little bit about the benefits of strength training?
How long do we have?
Oh, go for it.
No, I'm kidding. So, there's just so many, and the research is still coming out, but just to name a few, I mean, we're women and when we start to hit 40-ish, right? Are even as early as 30, women start to lose their muscle mass just gradually, 1-ish% or so, right? Per decade, it starts to go down. Well, muscle is metabolically active tissue, which means it requires a lot of calories to keep it going. Okay.
Hmm.
And essentially, what that means is you compound that by a couple of decades, and your metabolism has now lowered significantly. And then we time that perfectly with menopause, and we have this recipe for fat gain, especially around the abdominal region. And so that's one of the benefits is you maintain your metabolic rate when you have more muscle. One of the other huge benefits is in bone health. Your bones become stronger when you challenge them, just like your muscles do. Okay. So, strength training has been, or resistance training has been shown to help preserve your bone density and even can increase your bone density depending on where you're starting from, which results in a decrease in falls when you're older. And so, that's just a couple of the big areas. There's also hormonal aspects as well, in terms of your muscle tissue. Muscle tissue is like a sponge for blood sugar. And so it soaks up, it needs that blood sugar, right? And when women get, perimenopausal, menopausal, they start to get some insulin resistance, which means that they can't utilize the sugar as well. It doesn't go into their muscles as well. Well, you solve that. You help to mitigate that when you have more muscle mass. So there's so many different aspects of the benefits of strength training. And I mean, we're not even talking about the mental health stuff. And so those are the big things that I focus on is we're maintaining our metabolic rate. We are increasing or at least preserving our bone mineral density and the hormonal benefits. And then there's also just the functional aspect. When we get older, um, you know, you start to think about like what what really puts older people in their grave. It's falls, right? They fall. What do? They break a hip. And then what do? They have to go to and it creates this downward spiral and it is bad news. So when you are preventative about it, strengthen those bones, strengthen those muscles to prevent falls, it really can extend your lifespan and your functionality. For example, I teach what's called a compound lift approach to strength training. So we do squats, we do deadlifts, we do hip thrusts, hip hinge movements. Um, and I do that one because you get the biggest metabolic stimulus from those because they use multiple muscles. But also, I do it because they're functional movement patterns. You know, when you get out of the car, what are you doing? It's a squat movement. When you go to pick something up off the ground, what are you doing? It's a deadlift movement. When you go to, put something up on a shelf, you're doing an overhead press, right? Strengthening those movement patterns is going to set you up for success when you're older. I mean, I just think about getting up and off the couch, like how for older people, that's a struggle, or the toilet, right? And I'm, I don't want to, I want to prolong that process of me needing physical assistance as much as possible for my children, right? I don't want to be 65, 70 and needing help to get out of the car. So that's one of the big that's some of the big reasons, the big benefits of strength training.
Um, so it sounds somewhat similar to like CrossFit, little. Just maybe not as hardcore.
Yeah, it's different.
Okay.
So CrossFit does use a lot of those movement patterns. The intensity is a lot different. We're not over there, doing the workout of the day, sweating a storm. In fact, most of my clients are like, I'm not sweating. Is that normal? And I'm like, yeah, that's normal.
Okay.
You're still getting a powerful workout, but the intensity, I really prioritize recovery in between sessions. So most of my clients are doing 3 days a week.
Good. So you believe that strength training is more conducive to health and growth than like you have so I don't know if it was something that you had on your website or something that you said on your website as far as like your podcast about get off the elliptical.
Yes.
So you think that walking and elliptical and all of those things do you consider them things like you shouldn't do or you don't need to do? Where do you rate that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So walking, absolutely, you need to walk. And cardio is not the enemy. It's when we think cardio is the answer to fat loss. So what happens is in your body, when you want to lose weight, depending on how you approach it, if you just drop your calories, right? And let's say that you are not exercising at all, right? So you're going to lose weight, all right? But the proportion of muscle to fat is going to be different. You're going to be losing muscle and fat if you are not strength training, okay? And the same thing if you're just doing cardio, okay? The point of strength training is you're telling your muscles you are essential. You're right up here with my organs and everything. I use them. So we cannot use them for fuel. We have to go over here and use these fat stores. Use those up, right? And so that's what strength training does. So there is totally a place for walking, especially. I think that's a fantastic thing. It's the let me spend an hour and a half going on the elliptical and think that that is going to result in what I think it will. And it usually doesn't. So it's
Got
all
it.
about preserving the muscle mass because we're preserving the metabolism that way. And when you lose the fat, you want to see the shape, right?
Yeah.
You want to see shape.
Right. So you mentioned that in order for you to maintain the muscle mass, that calorie intake was very important. And so I saw that you had a 10-week meal plan. Does that work cohesively with the strength training or the muscle mass or the calorie intake as far as and full disclaimer, you said don't think you could just start out with 10 weeks. Just start with 1 week. I love the baby steps because I was like, girl, I'm having a hard time figuring out what's for dinner today.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And you're referring to I'm hosting a pop-up podcast. Starts September 22nd. Yes. And what it is it's called How to Meal Plan to Lose Weight. And the 10-week meal plan that I use is my own meal plan rotation. But in that training, I teach you how to create your first week of meal plans. And then the idea is you build another week and you build another week and then you build another week, and then you repeat. You go back to the beginning so that you are meal planning with a template instead of having to start from scratch every week. So that is one of the best methods that I've used to in my own life to help me consistently get nutritious food on the plate for myself and my family in a way that's not mentally overwhelming because it's really hard to be like, okay, what's for dinner tonight? And then you also have to be like, oh, well, make sure I get my protein in and my veggies. And I mean, that's just hard. So if you put in a little work up front to create I would say at the beginning, a 3 or 4 week meal plan rotation that you can repeat over and over, then the decision changes from, oh my gosh, what are we eating this week? What are all the meals and snacks and lunches and breakfast? It changes that decision to, what do I want to sub out? Which is a much easier question.
Yes, it is. Oh my goodness. And so you have a podcast episode, and I know that it's not very specifically talking about this because this is your pop-up podcast, but it says how to hit your macros without losing your mind. And so for me, planning and structure and making sure, because when I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Like, I don't want to spend 45 minutes in the kitchen trying to cook something when I need something to eat right now. And if that's a bag of chips, it's going to be a bag of chips. Do you know what I mean? And
Yes.
so when I saw that, which by the way, I'm glad that you talked about your pop-up because that's if that's what that is, that sounds like that is going to be an amazing opportunity for women who are looking to eat healthier or to meal prep properly the things that they need that their body needs. And for me, that is a huge thing. My home is a picky eater, so there are some times where I'm cooking like 3 meals. Like just
Oh,
something that, girl, there's something that I want on a healthier version that my husband and my children are not gonna eat, and my children want something that my husband is not gonna eat, or what I'm gonna cook my children is easier than what my husband's gonna eat. And I'm like, 3 meals is insanity. And so there are weeks where I will meal prep, like cook a tortilla soup or something like that for me, which by the way, I'm the only person in the house that's gonna eat soup because everybody else is special and they can't eat soup. But anyways, I will cook that thing and that can be, my meal for a couple of times. And so the 10-week meal plan, I think is so important. I've actually been looking around for like meal plan apps to see if somebody could give me like this, just like tell me exactly what I need to buy and how I need to do it so that I can have this structure. So that sounds like really exciting for that I don't want to say just that woman or that man that's looking to have this more structured way of making sure that they stay on task and what it is that they're doing.
yeah.
And
Yeah. I really wanted to create something that and inside of the training, I mean, you get a meal plan rotation template and like, I'm not telling you what to eat. And that's the big thing that I talk about. And I talk about it in the training. I'll explain my reasoning why, because I'm trying to help people develop a skill instead of it's like the whole teach a man to fish instead of giving them the fish. That's the approach. Because I can tell you what to eat, but you know what it's going to be based on? What I like to eat, how I like to cook, right? And we all are in different circumstances, like some of my clients come from a different cultural background than me. Oh, I don't want to, I mean, I'm not going to know what to put on their meal plan. And I want them, part of consistency and sustainability is being able to include those foods, right? Because that's part of their culture. And so that is the focus is like getting your first week. And I take you step by step through my meal planning framework. Like create this week, now replicate it a few times, and then you can run it on autopilot. And I mean, my meal planning, and we're a family of 7, my meal planning takes me maybe 20 minutes a week. So
yeah, I'll probably be jumping on that podcast. Like, don't be, don't be alarmed if you see me like, just snooping around. Cause like, what? That is awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
changed my life.
Good.
I'm telling you, changed my life.
I feel like that is a strategy to implement for success. Like talking about hitting your macros without losing your mind for me is just planning and purpose. And so that for me is so important. Um, do you recommend anything else as far as like times to work out, like setting your times to work out or setting a goal for the like, do you recommend those things?
So, really, I work one-to-one with clients, and so we work on those things individually. And one of the things that I do that I teach my clients to do is on Saturdays on the weekend, I meet with my husband and we talk about when are we going to do these things. I call them core needs, but they're like the essential things that we have to do. And for me, meal planning's on there, exercise is on there, time with the Lord is on there. There's these like the house administrative stuff, like we got to do that, So setting aside a time on a Saturday or Sunday or your weekend and plugging those things into your calendar, right? First. So they're not shoved in the cracks of our days. Because what happens is we get so caught up with all the other stuff. And then the things that we actually want to move the needle on, we don't plan and we don't prioritize, and then it doesn't happen. And so I think that is the biggest place to start. I mean, I could give you like some tactical, like if you're a complete new beginner, maybe strength training twice a week would be a good starting point for you, but it's really going to depend on you. Like maybe for you, you need once a week because your schedule's so crazy and we're really just doing a placeholder habit the other day a week, to keep it there until your schedule lightens up or, there's all kinds of nuance to it. But the key, I think, is setting aside the time to plan it and then budgeting that time. It's like a budget. You have to designate money to things.
Mm. I think that what you do, or what God has assigned for you to do is so incredibly important. I remember having a conversation with God about just the church community in a whole, of just not taking care of your bodies, not taking care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, any of these things. And so it really causes a hindrance in what it is that God can do through someone because they're not physically or spiritually or emotionally prepared to do what God is needing for them to do. He said that there's work to be done, but I don't have any workers. And so the task that God has assigned to you of just making sure that we are taking care of our temple, because this temple is what is going to get us to be able to execute those things that God is calling for us to do, is such an important task. And I love that you have that relationship with God where you're conversating with God to just ask him, how do you want me to show up in this area or in this platform? I mean, even when you were fostering, even in that stage of your life, just connecting what it is that we do to be able to open ourselves up so that God can use us and he can do his thing through us. It's not about us, it becomes about them. And so you even mentioned that again in your meal plan. Like, I can give you a meal plan, but it would be focused on what I think is a good meal plan. And the purpose of this is not about me, it is about me helping you and God using me to give you this structure or this strategy to improve your life. And so I think that what God has you doing is absolutely beautiful. And I want you to just give any more tips that you want to give to the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss community, or share anything that you're doing in addition to the pop-up podcast that you have coming up, ways that we can contact you, any offers that you have.
Yeah, of course. I would just say that if something struck a chord in this conversation and you're like, I really need to get my health back on track, I would encourage, whoever's listening to just start with something small. We get so caught up in the I have to overhaul my entire fitness habit, and it's a recipe for disaster because you're going to burn out. So just start with something small. It might be for somebody, I'm going to walk for 15 minutes a day. Might be something simple like that. It might be I'm going to have a vegetable with my dinner twice a week. It might be I'm going to eat protein for breakfast in the morning. Like, just keep it small. And then once you've mastered that, then add on something else. Um, if people are interested in working one-to-one with me, if that vibes well with you, and you like that approach of we master the simple things first before we add on to that, you can head over to my website, effectivefitnessforwomen.com, and you can find out more about that. And yes, I am hosting my pop-up podcast. It is limited time, so it's a limited audio training series. And it goes live on the 22nd and it will wrap up September 28th. So I would love to see whoever would like to join that there. I really had with creating this, it's a lesson from my program. So you're getting what it's like in the program, and it's so full of really practical value that I've learned, as a mom of 5 kids, because I don't have a lot of time. And so that skill that has been honed over years of, with my nutrition training and then also just being a mom, because it's just different. I mean, you can get fitness advice and nutrition advice from these, you know, 20-year-old Instagram fit influencers, right? But it's just different. And so I really wanted to create this pop-up podcast as a way to serve my audience and really help them get something that they can utilize over and over and over again that will take some of the stress out of their life.
And the pop-up podcast information is found on your website, correct?
Yes, you can go to effectivefitnessforwomen.com/register to sign up for it.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for joining us and pouring into the community. Again, I think it's just so important. And I pray that God continues to grow you on this journey that He has you on, this assignment that He has for you to reach the kingdom, or impact the kingdom through the people and how they are managing and stewarding their time and their health. And so thank you so much, Kingdom Wife Mom Boss community, for joining us on today. Make sure you go check out Rachel's website and see all of her things that she has for you. She has a pod. What is the name of your podcast? You didn't mention your
Yes.
podcast.
Oh my gosh, the podcast. Can't forget about that. My podcast is called Effective Weight Loss for Moms. Super short, punchy episodes that give practical strategies for fat loss for moms.
Yes, she has some amazing episodes on there. I love the one where it talks about not becoming your mom. And and not just your mom, but just anybody in your family that you see that has health issues and you're like, oh, I don't want to be that. And so I love that episode. But make sure you guys go and check her out. And we're gonna see you next time on the next episode of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss community. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Make sure that you catch us every week here on the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast, where we are bringing you new episodes, new content, new information, new empowerment, new strategies, and new strength. Until then, I'll catch you next time.